Hello, everyone. Glad to see you back here at Silver Tears Tarot. And of course, a warm welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time. So, I have recently done a couple of readings about your lessons and about what your person has learned from this relationship. And those readings, like one flowed into its extended, and that was very intentional. But what was unintentional is that that one then flowed into the next reading, which was about your lessons. And so now we are going to take a look at what's going on with the two of you energetically and kind of beneath all the noise of the sadness and the emotion that we saw. There's still a lot of emotion that's going on. Plus, we're going to look to see where your person would ideally like for things to go with this relationship. We asked a lot of things out of the last few readings, but we didn't really get into that one. So, um, we're going to go ahead and get into it here. So, as always, it's a general reading, it's for all signs. And we know it's not going to resonate with everybody, but if it is your story, what I will say is all of these readings have been very much connected. So you may want to go back and look at some of the other ones. And of course, if it's your story, please subscribe. So we're going to go ahead and jump in here with the energetic backdrop. And just so you guys know, the numbers have spoken. Like you guys, the number of emails and comments that I got about the new format that I've been doing have caused me to want to make a shift to where that new format is going to be the rule rather than the exception. So if we find ourselves needing to ask a bunch of additional questions beyond what has already come out, there are a couple different options for that, and we could go do the typical format with the 6 questions that I often ask. But instead, we're going to go forward with that soulmate snapshot format for this one. And we're going to start by looking at the energy that's happening, between the two of you, the energy that's happening between the two of you. And a lot of you are in separation, so it's going to be separation energy, or energy that is happening more on that spiritual side. So we've got the 5 of Swords in the upright and the Devil in the reverse. This is progress. The Devil in the reverse in particular represents some of that some of that progress. The 5 of Swords in the upright talks about maybe taking some energy and still putting it in places that isn't going to be for the best. So the 5 of Swords is the energy of winning at any cost. It's not necessarily a logical thing to do. It's more of I'm doing it just as far as I have to go. So if you guys remember MythBusters, they would they would test out these myths, and then if it turns out that the myth was busted, then they would say, okay, so the next question is, what would it take to make this possible, and they would go until they made it possible. And this is like the energy of this person who kind of wants to just go until they get what they wanted to accomplish, even if it doesn't necessarily mean making all the right decisions. It's a very pushing forward at any cost sort of attitude, which is not always. Sometimes that's really useful, and sometimes it's not a great strategy. In this case, it's probably starting to outlive its usefulness. There's been some maybe I need to get to a place where I can calm down. I need to get to a place where I can settle down. But now it's time to say, all right, I also understand that there's going to be more to that. And with the progress being made with the Devil in reverse, that's at least one thing that's controlling the two of you, no longer exerting that kind of control. So that's happening in your energetic backdrop. So let's take a look at what else wants to come out for that. See what else wants to come out. I thought we had a different one turning out or coming over. So we've got the Judgment card. Well, let's stop here because I think we're going to have more than one. We've got that. We definitely have more than one. We've got the Judgment card coming out to talk about what's in your energy, because it's about coming to a place where you have to you have to make a decision. It's almost like coming to a crossroads, but it's really coming to a decision. Do you move forward or not? There's not a different direction you can go. It's, do you get to move forward? And so that's kind of one of the reasons that things feel so crazy in the energy right now, is that we're at a place where a decision point, something has to be you have to decide if it passes judgment and it goes on to the world, or if it does not pass judgment and has to go back someplace else in the situation. We see a lot of strength that is coming out around the energy in this relationship, but it is not necessarily being used to heal or to make things better within the arrangement. Instead, there's a lot of it that's being used. Every time your person gets a little bit of strength saved up, they are able to somehow just they use it, but they're using it to inch a little bit farther away in this kind of Five of Swords energy. This is a very difficult, conflicting energy within your person, and they go back and forth between this and that energy of, you know what, I'm doing a lot better, I'm in a better place, and then they go back to this. And so, it's a cycle, but what you're going to notice is that just like you, they're going to ultimately start to have more good days than bad days if they continue going in the right direction. Right now, they're not conserving their strength, and they're using that strength to kind of push them in the wrong direction. But you can't force them to learn that lesson. In fact, when we looked in one of the recent readings, your best bet was actually to come away from the situation because your existence triggers them in certain ways around some lessons that they haven't quite learned. They have thought of you as being too good to be true, and it's kind of an interesting way to look at it, because they thought of you as being too good to be true, and yet their response to that is to push it away because of a fear of something that can't possibly be, that good. They've been in other cases inconsistent in their energy moving forward, but this is inconsistency in general, because as I said, your person goes back and forth between a feeling of getting they're moving ahead, they're getting more healed, and then they go back to something that's almost a childish sort of vibe that you would get from like the Five of Swords. So it's inconsistent movement forward. It's not super dependable, the energy that I'm feeling between the two of you right now. But it's not, there's no ill will. There's definitely healing that is going on. The two of you are working to I want to put it in a nice way and say that it's working to learn to no longer guard walls that don't require being guarded, which is what we see here in the Nine of Wands in reverse. But it's really like having to give up on guarding those walls. And so that's a little bit harsher of an energy to live through, because it's this act of giving up, almost like I can't fight anymore. And in somewhere in there, after not fighting anymore, there's going to be a realization that maybe that was something that the fighting never needed to even happen. With the Six of Pentacles, though, and we are just going to keep going until the cards stop making that, until they stop glowing. But I kind of get this little bit of a glow on the cards when and that's what I call it. It's not literal, but it helps me to know when a card needs to be used in a reading and when I'm at the end of what I'm going to pull here. And in this format, sometimes we go pretty deep into the deck, so it's interesting to see. So with this Six of Pentacles, though, this is very much that realization, and one that we've seen in a recent previous reading, that there's some focus on, especially like for the month of March, there's some focus on this realization that things have not been equal, and things have not been the way that they should be in that regard. So that energy is kind of getting strong in between the two of you, and it's letting me know that there's a chance that the two of you will not be able to allow this to pass judgment. And things are not over yet. There's going to be a need to go farther back in and do a little bit of reconciliation. As we saw in previous readings, it's reconciliation of self. Before, it would be reconciliation together, because you've got to have as much of these lessons learned as you possibly can um, before you go into a place where you try to make reconciliation, or you start thinking about reunion together. Otherwise, it's going to be the same cycle perpetuating itself once again. Let's see here. I think we need one more card with this, or maybe it is just exactly one more card. So in all of this, and I was trying to figure out how to put it together, and it seems like this really just puts it together very nicely for me. The two of you still feel so much like home to one another. There's this really strong sense of the two of you feeling like home to one another and not being able to get past that feeling. It's a feeling that you probably will have noticed when you first came together. Just that you've never maybe met before, and yet you feel like you've known each other always. And so there's that kind of soul recognition feeling that came along with it when the two of you met and came together. So that's that's this is what I mean when I say a lot more comes out sometimes in the question. So I asked about the energy between the two of you, just to kind of set the stage to see today where we're at. It's pretty consistent with what we've seen in the past, but again, these things change, and so as we're watching it and watching kind of the nuances develop, this is still a good question to ask. But now we're going to jump into what is happening beneath the surface for you too. So we've looked at, what's happened as far as your lessons are concerned, but there's still this energetic movement. A lot of times when I get into a reading, I like to look at what's happening in the energy between you. And this sets us up for, okay, so what is that? What does that mean? What else do we really need to know? About what's happening under the surface. And so it's kind of like that current energy, but we take a step back and look at it, a little bit broader of a look at it. So let's see. We've got the King of Swords. Talk about taking a step back and taking a broader look. That's the specialty of the King of Swords. And that is the energy of what's happening under the surface with you too. So, as you're learning these lessons, this is a fabulous thing because it means that you step back and both of you know how to step back and create a strategy, but your person's really good at it. It may be something that they haven't truly cultivated the skill, but they've got it. This is something where you guys are both doing this, but you're doing it in the context of your learning. So the tricky bit is when you start to make some progress and you start to recognize that progress, and I have by all means encouraged you to recognize that progress. It doesn't necessarily mean that the two of you can suddenly come back together in reconciliation because you made some progress. It may be that you need to make some additional progress before you're going to be able to be successful, which has been kind of what we've been looking into in the last couple readings. But the energy of the two of you actually coming back and looking at the situation and figuring out kind of how to look at it is really significant. It's strong here and it's a very significant thing. So we've got the Princess of Pentacles though, and the Princess of Pentacles talks about not having an openness to learning. We saw this card come out for your person in a recent previous reading, and so it's also one of those things that keeps coming out as a reminder for you. So I would say both ways, to think about it both ways. There is definitely the sense of being open to learning. It's hard to take a step back and take a look at the big picture because it requires a lot of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence usually requires keeping yourself open to learning new things about the situation, about motivations. And when we've got Seven of Swords energy in there, it means deception. Generally, though, in this, the way that this one feels, it's more self deception and a lack of self trust. But if you've got self deception and a lack of self trust anywhere in the situation, it's kind of going to poison the whole thing. And so it's a matter of needing to work past that, needing to solve the issues at the root of that. And it's the root of, it's the root of this impasse. So there is a something between the two of you that I would just call an impasse. So we've got the Two of Wands. It's come up in a few previous readings, but when this card comes up in the reverse, and every time I use this deck, and actually lots of times I don't, I think that card likes to come out. I think it likes to come out in the reverse to talk about the fact that there are some places where emotionally you and your person are not on the same page, or it could be a matter of values. There's something that is keeping the two of you apart for reasons that are maybe not affecting both of you the same way. So if you've got an difference in your relationship, and some of you do, then maybe it bugs one of you more than it bugs the other one. for example. So what we've got here, though, is it's an impasse that creates an inability for the two of you to move forward in a successful relationship. It's something that if there was greater self-trust, if there was greater a lack of self-deception, lack of you know, just self-degradation almost. It's a weird feeling. I'm trying to figure out how to describe it. It's like imposter syndrome, but like internally. Anyway, it also causes you to kind of squeeze your eyes shut and not be open to the learnings as much. And so it's a lot harder to cross that emotional distance that is open between the two of you. So that's part of what's happening under the surface between you. That impasse still exists, even though there's a lot of love here, and we can see the love, a desire for something new. There's been a stirring in the energy. I was saying in a previous reading, I think I said it had been over the past week, and so now it's been a little bit longer than that, and the energy has continued to be stirred up. So it's like it was being, sand or dirt being stirred up from the bottom of something, a container of water, and it's gotten all muddy. But this love is part of what has come out of that. It's remembering how fantastic that energy was, remembering what sort of a missed opportunity this was, and then trying to decide if it really is truly a missed opportunity, or if it is an opportunity for all of the energy to be put together. With the Five of Wands in reverse, we have a chance to say, here's a bunch of energy that's coming in this same general area. Could we make all of these wands move in the same direction and direct themselves the same way? So the Five of Wands in the upright is a card of struggle, but in the reverse, sometimes it's a card of opportunity. Here with the Sun in reverse, we definitely see this feeling of the missed opportunity between the two of you that is like a wound that just can never gets a chance to heal. And with this Five of Wands, this is almost like the opportunity to make things right again. And so it makes me wonder if maybe that's the direction the energy is happening under the surface with you, especially because we know with this King of Swords that it is that more strategic, well thought out, logical sort of using your mind and not just allowing your heart to run away with you. You've got to have a nice balance of that energy. And here we've got a nice balance. We've got the Ace of Cups with the flow of emotion and the flow of love. We've got the King of Swords with the willingness to let go and take a look at the big picture and before deciding how to handle it. But unfortunately, we've also got eyes squeezed shut with the Princess of Pentacles and a refusal to learn certain things, an impasse that won't go away, and some self-trust and self-degradation sort of behavior on your person's part that's starting to make things very difficult as far as using this as an opportunity to bring your energy back together. What I would say, though, is this is a cycle. This is not the last shot you'll have. So if you're not able to reconnect on this cycle, as the two of you come a little bit closer again in the following cycle of communication, this isn't the overall soulmate cycle. Like the overall soulmate cycle, it takes years, but the cycle of this, what's happening with you right now, is a much smaller. It's a much smaller amount of time, and so you have opportunities to have little wins in there. And the Nine of Pentacles is exactly the sort of energy that will help to get you there. So the Nine of Pentacles is a confidence within yourself and a confidence and understanding that allows you to have some independence within your thinking, allows you to have some independence within your emotion that makes you make decisions in a different way. You're going to carry yourself very differently. With this, you're also you're going to have an opportunity to exercise some of this finding closure in a situation where you're not being given very much to work with. And that's pretty specific, because our overarching lesson is that of becoming comfortable in a place that is not super comfortable. But this Justice card is very specifically finding closure, which is in like all kinds of cards here lately, if you pay attention. But it's about finding closure in a situation where the information to provide you that closure is not really being extended. So that's kind of intense. That's what's happening in the energy between you, which sounds very much like healing. So this devil in reverse starts to come into view a little bit when we see that you're able to you are so close to having what you need and this good balance. There are just a couple of things that are kind of getting in the way and making this missed opportunity loom much larger than it needs to, instead of presenting the opportunity with that previous investment emotionally that you guys have had together. That presents some opportunity if you're both willing to use it that way, but it has to be both of you. So, the other question that we wanted to ask here is kind of what would your person want to have happen? Because here we see a lot of mixed signals. We see an impasse, love, missed opportunity. Maybe we can make it all work out. But there's also this sense of taking yourself down a notch, and not it's an ego issue, very much an ego issue. And I guess I'm curious to understand about that too. But let's look to see what it is that your person would really want to have happen, because if you were to look at their actions, it's not always super evident what they would prefer and what they're after. So, yeah, we're looking at what your person would want to have happen. And I think as we go into the extended, we are definitely going to have to dig in a little bit more into your person's energy to see what's going on there, because it's just really heavy lately in your direction. So, if you've been feeling like your person's energy is crowding you lately, it's not just you. It is real. And it's been about the last week and a half. Okay, so the Ten of Wands. Sorry if I freaked anybody out on that one. I've noticed it, I've felt it, and if you're on the same um, track, then you probably have as well, if you're sensitive to such things. So we've got the Ten of Wands that has come out with what your person would really want to have happen, and that is like the strangest feeling. They want everything. So the Ten of Wands is carrying too heavy of a load. It's a burden. And the thing is, they want it because they actually want all of the things. They want to have it all, but they don't want to have to set down any of the things that that they're currently enjoying in order to have it. So they want you plus whatever it is in their life that would have to change in order for them to have you. And they feel man, they feel like it's inevitable. They feel like it's almost definitely coming at them and they can't help it because they're manifesting you. They're manifesting you. You're manifesting them. We've got the devil in reverse again. You guys, that is a fabulous card to see in reverse in almost any context. So we've got the devil in reverse. What your person really wants is like to have what they have, to have what they want in addition to that. So whatever they currently have, plus to have what they want with you. And they don't want it to hurt. They don't want it to feel like triggering. They wish they could have it all. That is really what they want. And yet they feel like they're in a place where they don't have any choice. So right now there's a kind of a lack of perspective. So as they think about what they want, they can't figure out how they would get closer to it or how they could potentially ever have what it is that they truly want. And yet they really have this desire and magnetism to move toward it. They want a not just a day-to-day balance, but an all the time balance. They want that hard won balance that is represented by the Temperance card, and that we have seen in a lot of the readings really throughout time as being kind of one of the main goals. It's like you're dealing with. I hate to bring astrology into this because I just got done saying at the beginning that it's for all signs, but this is like Libra energy. If somebody has Libra in their chart, it is so much of a gravitation toward balance, and lots of people have Libra in their chart. So that's entirely, I have Libra in my chart, even though I'm not a Libra. But this is something that really magnetizes toward balance and wanting things to be a certain way. But yet there's this driving desire to have everything, to have their cake and eat it too, as they say. So they want everything and they want it not to hurt. Not exactly the words that it's being given to me in, but it's they want it all and they want it not to suck. There you go. I said it. So the Ace of Wands is part of this. So we've seen the Ace of Wands and it's been coming out in some of these previous readings, talking about what you didn't have, talking about what you were taking in sometimes it was you, sometimes it was your person, sometimes somebody doing this on your behalf, but essentially taking your desires and just putting them out, snuffing them out. Here we see that sense of those desires and wishes, very much wanting to, your person does not want to be stopped. They want to have the partnership with you that they desire, and they want to be able to have this passion that they have, but they don't want anything to get in the way of it like it has been. And we see that kind of all throughout. They want to have a little bit of everything. So I'm going to move this over here and I'm going to do an oracle card for you. Haven't been using these as much in the last couple of readings, but I always have them there because sometimes I get in there and I realize, we need an oracle card just for little advice to kind of round this whole thing out. So that's what my oracle cards always are, unless otherwise stated. So we've got the Woodwives, and it's the adaptability card. Okay. So what's coming from this card for me today, this one has a lot to it, but it is about being agile, mentally agile in a situation that is rapidly changing. We know things are rapidly changing. We know that your person is in this place where what they really like to have happen is they would like to be able to be happy with everything that they hold dear, even though some of those things are in conflict with one another. And with the adaptability card, the name of the game is going to be figuring out how to make that balance work, even though it's not necessarily, like, it sounds impossible the way your person is talking about it, but I wonder if it is. There may be a situation where you're able to kind of be able to work things in. So this card seems like it's flying back in the face of, when I first started pulling these cards about what does your person want, it was, oh, they want everything and they want it to be enjoyable. They want there to be balance. They want to have this passion and be able to go towards it. They feel like it's inevitable. This passion, this partnership, nothing getting in the way of it. I want what I have plus the additional things that I want. And what this card is telling us is, hold on, before we rule that out, let's go ahead and follow the mantra that I like to put out there so often, and release assumptions about the outcomes. So we don't really know what's going to happen. And that's the advice that's coming from this Woodwives card right here. So okay, that got a little bit intense. We're going to jump into the extended if you want to. The link will be down below. And we're going to take a closer look into what's happening with your person, because we've got some ideas around their emotions here, but let's look to see kind of what's happening in their feelings, in their situation, because especially with this focus on the Six of Pentacles and the way it feels like you're taking a bath in their energy all the time here in the last week and a half. Let's look to see what's kind of happening in their feelings. We're also going to look a little bit more into what you're like. I want to ask the question nature of the relationship, but we already are starting to see that truly emerge. I guess what we want to know is, what do we need to know about this relationship for you? We're seeing that twin flame dynamic play out over and over, as much as I don't love using the term, because I feel like it's maybe not as the most accurate in the world. However, everyone knows what set of dynamics I'm talking about when I use that term, and that's what I'm after. So When we see that though, that allows us to know some things about the relationship, but we still maybe need to know some nuances. So that's one of the things that we'll look into, how your person is feeling, what else you need to know. And that's what we'll do when we get into the extended. So I will look forward to seeing you there, or thank you so much, and I'll see you again in a future reading.